Hello. Um, my name is Pastor Sidney. I'm here at the All Faith Church Liberation in Chicago. I've only recently started to uh, make videos with the intention of a mass group of people listening. We've had our uh, church here in Chicago. We've been mostly looking to ourselves and building that way. But this is the time to reach out. I see now that there are some very wonderful things that churches are doing, including what a very wonderful man in Canada, an Anglican priest who I've been talking about to my congregation for over a year or longer, a wonderful man named Ed Travers. I just saw, had talked about how the United Methodist Church in the United States are opening their doors to queer people. Um, our congregation has a lot of queer people in it, including myself. And my cisgendered female wife is also queer. A lot of us in our community have been looking at the Bible and the Quran and the Sutras of the Buddha and and having our own scriptures that we offer. From the perspective of really continuing the discussion that was brought in even the first chapters of Genesis, the distrust that God had for the feminine nature of the universe, the distrust God had for women in the story of Lilith, who kind of broke the story, and then of course Eve, who even though she was only from a rib of the original person, was so strong as a woman that she also broke the God's broken idea that we would be children forever in the Garden of Eden. We had to go all the way out, sin, break the law of God, tell the adult we have to find our own adulthood and rebel and all the things we did for hundreds and thousands of years to come back in Revelation to get that tree of knowledge and the tree of life, both given to us in Revelation. It is not a mistake that the current gender war, the current war of guns versus love, or whatever is going on in the United States, um, is going on now, because these are in fact the end times of our civilization. We will either become a new civilization, a better civilization, or we will fall apart. And if you look at the Bible, there's always this concept of end times. It's almost always applicable to any time during doomsday cults of the 1800s and earlier. The Reformation, had a 100 years war. There was a lot of things going on that felt like the end of the world. The bubonic plague, even before that, the witch burnings. So there's always this time where civilization's falling apart and struggling to define itself. And these things come up: the mother versus the father, the unresolved thing that God himself asked us all to do for him, which is to have a feminine softness from our Mother Earth, but also the Spirit of God, and trying to find how that balances and works together. And during this discussion, queerness comes up in the Bible. If you look at 1 Samuel 20, in that general area, the relationship between Jonathan, the son of Saul, the first king, and David, the second king, Jonathan and David are very gay. They're kissing each other's hands and things. It's really hard to not look at that and see that they're very much in the realm of queerness. And it's not a mistake then that Jesus, of all the kings to be descended from, he always spoke of David, the David who had relations with both genders, sometimes in really ways that were against the law of the time, including things that got into trouble, like his fights with Uriah, his servant, his general, who he killed to be with Bathsheba. So that concept of sin, but the concept of going through the life that you have to go through to get to the God that you will eventually understand. That idea that we had to go through a sin, if you will, or an adventure, a journey away from the home of Eden to come back to it with a full, more mature understanding. That's what the Bible's about. That's why the Bible is a really good thing to read. And all my brothers and sisters out there who might not like me now because I've come out as a queer preacher, if you give me the time of day to look at the actual scriptures in the King James Version of the Bible, I can prove this. And if you look at Ruth, the book of Ruth and Naomi, that they had a relationship that was pretty obviously lesbian. Why does the Bible talk about these things if it doesn't want us to talk about these things? Why is the Bible a good book to read? Because it's literally talking about this same battle. And there's a point that we had said in an earlier thing we did a few weeks ago, this had come up in our discussions in the church, that Jesus said that he was going to divide, father and daughter and mother and son and brother and sister would fight. Well, that is actually what the Jesus Spirit is doing, but it's forcing us to not judge each other. That's why we're being divided, not to become some kind of war between queer and straight, between black and white, between trans and cis, between people of this politic and that politic. Those are the challenges that we are facing, the temptations, if you will, into a social sin, to judge each other. And I told this before in the video I said recently, it is up to me, as much as who I am, to therefore not judge homophobic or transphobic people, as much as that might hurt my actual family. I have to have this ability to look that person in the face, just how Jesus said, if they strike you here, strike you there. That means you put it right up in your face. That is not a weak person's attitude. That is a very strong person's attitude, Jesus' attitude. He will not back down. He will not hit you, but he will not be hit and cower down. He will continue to put his face in your face until you hear him. And that's what we all are challenged to do. And Jesus, the son of David, the king of David, he was obviously referencing, if you look at the Gnostic Gospel of Thomas, the Gnostic Gospel of Mary Magdalene, and the canonical Gospel of John. John also was a lover of Jesus, if not a very, very intimate friend. He called himself the one that Jesus loved. There's a lot to talk about here, and I'm going to begin my ministry really on this point. And thank you so much, Reverend Ed Travers, for your inspiration to our church and everything we do here in Chicago, and the different churches we're building in other states now. We owe you a lot, friend, because you gave us kind of permission to do what I'm doing now, to be myself, which is different than you or anybody else, but to bring our understanding, my church's understanding, which is a lot of trans people, has a lot of cisgender people, has a lot of heterosexual people, has mothers, as well as women who never want to have children. And we have all of this together in a community because that's what Jesus is talking about. He's not trying to get everybody in a political position where we join this party where we all have to democratically, centrally, in a Leninist way, agree with every point that everyone agrees with. Another video will be coming up about that. But instead of that insistence on orthodoxy in the Constantine Nicene way where everyone has to agree on everything, we believe the reason there are many churches now is because God is asking us all to answer these questions in our subtle and different community ways. So a lot to talk about here, but the main thing is I'm accepting the challenge that was given me by God, but also people in the community to actively talk to people now about the fact that the Bible is a great book to read, not just to read a little line saying something or a little line saying something, but to read the whole book, all 1,300 pages in the Christian Bible too, and then the Quran after that, because that is the Holy Spirit coming as Jesus predicted it would come. That the Holy Spirit on paper is what the illiterate man Muhammad was told by God to write down. One of the best poetry over here. You could listen to the Arabic poetry, and you will hear its poetry even if you don't know a word of Arabic. That's what came out of an illiterate man for 10 hours. It was God that did that. It was the Holy Spirit that did that. It is time for us to unify all the things instead of all of us being divided. The challenge that Jesus is giving us is to divide the father and son, mother and daughter, not to have them divide, but that we would triumph over that sinful, devilish thing in our society that makes us judge each other and finally be able to love and live, queer and straight, asexual and multisexual, all genders, possibly no genders. What can we do as free people to let God shine through? That is what I'm going to hope to do. Sorry they got a little off topic, a little off point, but I will be asking more things and reaching out to people who might be interested in what we have to say. The short part of it is I really am thankful to the Methodist Church. I'm thankful to all the churches that are allowing queer people to exist. But we have to go further to realize the Bible in your hand is all about this fight. It's not on the side of it. And it's not, oh, sin, the sin. Fornication is a sin. Almost everyone sleeps before marriage now. That is equal to homosexuality. So anyone who's straight and thinks they're not sinning and doing that, well, you're being very, you got two sets of books there. You got to get the one book, which is the Bible, and the books around it, Quran, the Sutras of the Buddha. The reason for this is the more we get together, the more we explore together, the more we honestly have a diversity of opinion, the more God will shine through all of us. Imagine if we're all just one brain cell in the God of mind. There's 100 billion galaxies that we know of in the universe. There's 100 billion brain cells in the average mind. That could be your mind. That could be my mind. That's surely God's mind. So let him and his Holy Spirit and their Holy Spirit and Mother Earth all come together in us and let that shine out to the world in whatever ways it will. Thank you. I hope this is food for thought right now, and I will be putting more up later. Appreciate you. Thank you. Bless you.